Man, y'all know the face, y'all know the name. You're tuned into the world's greatest podcast, Talk Ain't Cheap podcast, hosted by yours truly, Mr. It's a Movie Cletus Real Talk. And I have a special guest with me in typical Talk Ain't look at me, Talk Ain't Cheap fashion. I do not introduce my guests. I feel like I shortchanged them. So please, guest, introduce yourself.
Good evening. This is Rebecca Fraley Corrado, a resident of Staten Island and currently working at Medgar Evers College as the Assistant Vice President for Finance and Administration and currently the labor designee and the Title IX officer. And I've been there for 3 years.
How did you, well, that's, first of all, that's mad impressive. That's all of that is impressive. It sounds super hard and intricate to do. How did you get to that position? Like, first, what do you do? Like, what does that mean?
Okay. So in my labor relations position, we have a lot of unions that work on the college, a lot of contracts. So if an employee thinks that the college has done something in error and we have done something with regard to the contract that is contrary to what is written, they file a grievance. And what happens is they write it down, I get the grievance, and I review it and make a determination as to whether we should settle it or we're going to have a hearing. And we have a hearing, I write a decision. If they're not, the president has to approve the decision, but if they're not happy with it, then we take it to step 2 and we have a hearing at the university with a university hearing officer. And it's busy.
So it's kind of like you're like the educational law.
Something, yes.
Like it's like you handle like all the judiciary aspects of like the, your university, your college.
Yes, there is an attorney there, and she's great, and she handles a lot of things too. She's very busy, but we work as a great team because we're both very energetic, and we both want to, once something comes in, we want to deal with it right away. We don't want things to linger and get worse or change. We just want to deal with it.
How did you get into that position? Like, what was that road like?
Interesting story. That goes back to my days at Kingsborough Community College where I worked for, I'd say, 17 years. I started off there. I was a major in criminal justice because I wanted to go to law school. That didn't work, unfortunately, because of certain reasons. So I was the deputy director of public safety. And in that role, I had to do a lot of writing. And a lot of those reports went up to human resources. So one day I received a phone call that unfortunately the labor designee passed away. And would I want to go up there and give the position a try myself? So here's about taking chances. Like if I would have said no, I don't think I would have been able to make it up the ladder. So I said to myself, I have to take this chance. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go up there and I'm going to learn really fast. So I went upstairs in the HR office and I became the labor designee. And I taught myself. I read other people's decisions. I read through arbitration decisions. I read the contracts. I spoke to other people that were in my position. And I became very successful at that job. I was even their legal designee, even though I wasn't an attorney. And then one of the biggest, I think, problems turn into the greatest opportunities. So they hired a professor under a visa, H-1B visa, so he could teach, except no one had filled out the paperwork. He didn't want to hire an attorney. He wasn't obligated to. So they said, someone has to know how to do visas in the university, and no one knew at that time how to do an H-1B visa. Mm-hmm. So since he was on the college campus, I said, I'll do it. Never even saw an H-1B visa before. I stayed, I learned, I read, and I spoke to people, and I took a look at it, and I called the State Department, I called the federal government, and I filled out the visa. And I sent it in, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to make me or break me. And he was able to get the visa. And I'd say about 2 months ago, he texted me and said, thank you, I want to let you know I just became an American citizen. Wow. He's so happy. And I did several, and I was very much involved in, there's a professor at was a professor at Baruch. His name was Alan Werner, who was doing, it was called Citizenship Now. So I was just a part of a bank of people who were receiving calls from New York City residents who were not here legally, giving them advice on how they could file documentation to become a legal citizen here.
So how did you get to that point? Like, was it an academic move that you think set you up, or like what kind of steps did you take to get to that position?
I just felt that I needed to reach out and help people. And when the call went out, I said, let me do this. Because if I can help a few people that call, that's big to me, because I believe that, and this is something that I've done in all my jobs, that if I'm in a position if I have the power to lift someone up who's been in a lower position that they're qualified for and paid a lot lower than they should be paid, I lift them up into a different position, the one that they belong in. And I say to them, there's only one thing I want you to make me a promise about. And they say, what? I said, I want you to do the same thing that I did for you for someone else when you have the opportunity. And lift someone else up. Because otherwise, people will just stay where they are in some areas. So and I truly believe in that.
So was there like an educational path that helped position you to do this, or was this all just like sheer will, God, opportunity presenting itself, you positioning yourself, networking?
It was the educational path, and it was the opportunity presenting itself. The fact that I did so much research about the visas, and I learned so much about immigration law that I felt confident that I could sit and help people.
Okay, cool. So what was your educational background? Because we kind of spoke about it briefly, and I was just confused because I never met somebody who's from. You're not from here, so you're from Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Okay, and you went to St. John's University on Staten Island.
Right.
Not the one in Queens.
Correct.
The one in Staten Island. What was that like?
I have a funny story actually for you. So we moved from Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, to Staten Island here. And I enrolled in St. John's University. And I saw no one that looked like me. I was so uncomfortable there. The first couple of weeks of the first semester, there was no one else of color. So you wouldn't find me in the cafeteria because that's where all the sororities and fraternities hung out. So I was like in the Rathskeller. And all of a sudden, I see this gentleman, a man of color, walking past me, and he stops at the table and he goes, "Oh my God." I was like, "Oh my God." He goes, "Another person of color. Oh man, we're best friends now." And his name was Tony. I give Tony a shout out. We are still really tight. And Tony and I used to sit and keep each other company and talk. And then a whole other bunch of people who really didn't fit into that St. John's mold at that time of being in a fraternity or a sorority. We all became like the misfits of this Rathskeller. And they were some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. We'd sit there and have debates about religion, about history, about philosophy, about politics. And we may have learned more out of class than we did in class. So, yeah.
Because it's interesting, because I don't really know anyone who's from here that went to St. John's. And I know it's kind of unfortunate St. John's is closing now.
Yes. But
I'm more interested in seeing what it's going to look like for that space. Mm-hmm. Because, even to be quite frank, I've never been on that campus. And I'm from here. I've never been on that campus. Yeah. I don't know what it looks like. I didn't know people actually went to school here. Mm-hmm. That is an infallible like kind of concept to me. Like there's people who go to St. John's on Staten Island. Yeah. So that's just crazy to actually meet somebody who's actually an alum of St. John's Staten Island.
I am an alum, and we actually graduated on the St. John's campus in Staten Island. For the last couple of years, the graduation has been in Queens, and people have complained about that.
Wow. Well, at this point, we can't complain about it anymore because we're not even going to have it anymore.
It's going to be closed. So. Who knows what's going to happen?
I mean, from your opinion, do you think Staten Island needs another university or college? Do you think that they should utilize that space for that, or do you believe it should be used for something completely different?
I think that Wagner can probably expand its allied health programs and use that campus for that. They may even need more housing, residential housing for the students. I don't think we need another college on Staten Island. I think between Wagner and CSI, which is an excellent school, and Wagner's an excellent school, we have good education on, higher ed on Staten Island. We really do.
I think one of the things I've noticed is that we do have good education and we do have these programs and resources here. I think Staten Island does a horrible job of allocating their resources correctly. And I think that there's only like a subset of people who really, really, really benefit from it. Because I think a lot of the issues that the city faces, I think Staten Island has the answers for it.
Yeah.
I just don't believe, and ironically, I was looking at the numbers today of like the population of Staten Island. Staten Island only has 460,000 people. I thought we had over 1 million. And then when you look at the percentage, the demographic breakdown of Staten Island, 10% of us are black.
Yeah.
That's to me was crazy. I was like, whoa. That makes so much sense why everyone loved Trump. Because everybody looked like him. No, but all the side, I do feel like Staten Island does have the opportunities to do a lot of great things here. We have the space, we have the resources.
Yes.
Obviously, we have accessibility issues that definitely need to be discussed. Obviously, the allocation of funds could be a lot better.
Yes.
Obviously, on the north shore of the island, there it seems more construction and this and that, but not real development.
Correct.
And I think that's also my issue with Staten Island. And but
I agree.
We could go. We could keep going. Staten Island has a lot of downs, but like you said, in places where there seems to be no opportunities, it tends to be the most.
Right.
So, you're also involved in politics a little bit.
I'm getting there.
What makes you want? When you say getting there, what do you mean by that? Like, tell us me what's going on with that?
I am making my inroads with the current politicians because I am very interested in running for office one day soon, because I really think that I could help make change on the island because of my background, because of what I see, because of what I've been through in my life. So I'm willing to go out there on a limb.
Okay. All right. So this is interesting. All right. So we met obviously at Assemblyman Charles Falls' holiday party.
Yeah.
And I told you from your energy, your aura, the way you kind of navigated the room, it was kind of like you weren't a fly on the wall, because you did take up space, but it's like a quiet confidence about you. And I respect that. I always do. Like, I respect people who have a quiet. I just respect anybody who has confidence, period, because I feel like this world constantly is always trying to actively work against black people with confidence. Absolutely. So when I saw that, I was kind of interested to ask you questions and stuff like that. But why politics? Why not? I know you said you could help people, but why? Like, what had happened, or what experiences made you want to come to a place like, you're like, maybe I should throw my hat in the race, or maybe this is the space I should fill to do something?
I think I could tell you quiet confidence. I like that term because I had the unfortunate opportunity to have been recruited for a fantastic job, which I really don't want to name the organization. And I went in there with, as I usually do, with great confidence and energy and things and ideas, and I want to do this and that and this and that. And it was fantastic. I said, yes, I can make change. Only to find out that the reason why I was hired is because I am a woman of color.
You was a diversity hire.
That's right.
You was the quota, huh? I was the quota. And I was not allowed to make any decisions. I was not allowed to make any changes. They just wanted me to sit in the corner and make, $200,000 a year and do nothing. And morally, I just couldn't do that. I could not do that. So I left that position, and it was the greatest feeling I ever had. Like, go find someone else that's going to say yes to something like that. Do you see that as something that's really, really normal in a lot of these spaces? Like people taking the money just to kind of be like a guinea pig, or you know, the black face in the white space for representation, or for pictures, or for some kind of strategic ploy that they may need, that they'll throw that black face in that space to do something for them. Like you see that as something that's really normal?
Yeah, I do. I make it a habit to look. When I look at like the upper echelon of a company, I look at who are their officers, like who's the chairman, and all I see, and my mother was Caucasian, she was French, so I'm not biased either way, but I don't see dark faces in those pictures. I see them in the pictures of, like in the MTA. You know, they're train operators, they're cleaners, they're station
service
handlers.
workers.
Yes, but the MTA is like one of the, and I interviewed twice for that position. Senior vice president for operations, and I know I would have done a hell of a job. We wouldn't have been in the situation we're in now if I would have gotten that job.
Talk about it. What situation are we in? Because I think it's definitely fair to speak about, and I know it's very valid.
Yes. Well, look, we have a system that is over 100 years old. They have not maintained the system. And we don't have the up-to-date braking system on the trains that we need to have. We don't have, some of the elevators don't work. We have
flooding issues.
The
whole infrastructure is basically...
It's terrible. And it would take so much money and so many years to invest in improving the system right now that I have my doubts as to whether we're really going to be able to do that, because the city has waited so long to allocate funds for this. Yes, we have some brand new stations. It's great. You know, we extended the 2nd Avenue line, so on and so forth. But what about the current stations? You wait for a train, you see rats, you're standing there in a puddle, or the water's dripping down on your head. Go to use the elevator, it doesn't work, or it smells like urine. It's terrible. It's for the greatest city. I mean, without the MTA, without the trains and the buses, this city will die.
Oh, without a doubt, because
right?
What makes New York special is the accessibility based off of the fact that we have public transportation that run 24 hours. We have trains that go through an interlocking system that allows you to connect through different parts of the city.
Right.
Outside of that, there is no reason to live in New York.
Right. And we're just letting it fall apart. Why? Why are they just letting it fall apart? And when I interviewed for the first time, it didn't work out, always because of politics. So, because I was told by the MTA president that at a later time when I saw her at dinner that, hey, I really am sorry about what happened. I would have given you that job, but I got a phone call.
Oh, really? We get phone calls. Someone made the call.
Yeah.
Oh man, don't you hate that?
I hate that.
I get those calls too. I get those. Isn't it so sad? Like at this point, like I actually posted the other day. I'm like, isn't it unfortunate that in 2022 we're still seeing first black this, first black that, in 2022, as if at the exception of this nation, that for every white person that was here, there was a black person in that space too.
Yes.
And usually when you're a black face in a black space, you're probably quadruply overqualified to be in that space.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of situations that I've been in when I've been like the only woman of color in the room. And you're
biracial.
Uh-huh.
So do you think, and I'm asking this question, and from having a conversation, obviously I don't truly believe this, but do you think it's because you can be like white passing depending on who's looking, or that you kind of blend in because you're biracial? Like or do you think it's solely because like what do you think it is? Like why?
People put me in a box and I am black. I'm a black woman.
From Brooklyn at that.
From Brooklyn, yes.
So culture, energy, the way you approach things, black woman.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So, I have to tell you, when I went to get married, and you have to apply for a marriage license, and he said, "What is your ethnicity?" And I said, "Well, African American and Caucasian." "No, you can only put one down." I said,
"Who told you that?"
The clerk.
People, they told you that? That's crazy.
And I said, "No, no, I'm not putting one down. That's not accurate. I am of I'm two races." He goes, "You can't be of two races. You can only be one." I'm just the stupidity behind that comment. So I didn't give him any information, and it went through. He didn't want to argue with me.
Jesus. Yeah. Do you believe like we could get to a point where like race wouldn't be a main factor in things in this nation? Or do you think that's too embedded in the fabric of our nation that at this point it's kind of like you just kind of have to deal with it?
It's too embedded in the fabric of this nation. I almost think that it's built into the way the government works that keeps people of color down, the people in the projects. It's like a cycle that people just can't get out of. And I really want to find a way to help people get out of that cycle. I mean, people have said that, but I don't see any change.
I've kind of learned that invested interest, and most people's vested interest, change doesn't really benefit them. Like in politics, you know, everyone has vested interest. Yeah, it sounds good to tell these people these stories to get into a position, but when they get into that position, the work that it takes to make that change is either so immense or intense, or the ways in which people have to go about it, the sacrifice that it takes. I don't think people are really, one, understand what it takes, and two, are really interested or invested into doing it. So we get a lot of people who get into these positions of power saying they're gonna make all these changes and never do a damn thing. Like the North Shore has been that way since I was a kid. You know, all the buildings, all the projects, a lot of the conditions, the way that the communities are set up, the trash, a lot of the mentalities, and we've had black representation in top spaces. So what does that really say? It's bigger than being black in a position of power. It's legit the system.
It is the system, and I think if you look at the system as a whole, as a macro system, you will never get anything done. But I think if you cut things into pieces and start small, like if you start with just the garbage, and people see a change, they're like, wow, something's working. I think you have to do it a piece at a time, even if it takes 50 years. It's better than staying stagnant like this and having the unfortunate situation of these families having to grow up like this, and their families having to go through the same cycle. But I think it has to be done or taken as a smaller project.
Brick by brick.
That's it. That's the way it has to be done, because otherwise it's overwhelming.
See, my only concern with that being, you know, I'm a little younger, you know, even though you look younger than me, by the way. You dead do though. You dead do look younger.
Thank you for that.
No, I'm not gonna lie. You dead look younger than me, and you remind me of one of my friends. I'm actually show you a picture of her when we're done speaking. But you remind me just of one of my friends too, and she actually is half French as well, and her mom is black. Yeah.
Okay.
So that might be a thing. Like, we have to see what that's about. But what I've also noticed is that this system that we're operating in now, the nation, the world, we are racing against time as well. And the reason I say that is because, like, capitalism is a reactive system. So what does that mean? We take 10 steps forward, they're already 100 steps forward. Like, they're gonna keep moving the goalposts, right? So what happens is, like, yeah, it might take 50 years to make that one change, but in that 50 years, they've already compiled probably about 1,000, maybe 100,000, maybe 1 million ways to counteract one move. And like, you gotta think, we're racing against computers now. Like the real competition, obviously, with globalization, now you see China has been able to adjust and get to a certain position because of technology. Russia is able to get to the position they're in because they have a very strong oligarchy, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and on top of that, Russia has always kind of been really secluded from the world, and they've always had a dominant mentality in terms of, like, how do we colonialize and imperialize everything. Like, they've never gotten away from that. Like, that's them. The United States, I think, has been going through an identity crisis for a really long time. Over the last couple of years, like the United States became like this world police, but now we realize like the police don't do their jobs well, and so it's a weird time and space to be young black talented, just not even young, but just black talented in this world, because it's like, you know, you could really actively try to change something, but the same energy you're giving, you're getting that back from your opposition, and it's not just one person. Like, they're coming from every different direction. They're going to try to attack your health. They're going to try to attack your family, your reputation, your education. They're going to get it from from your access to resources, your just accessibility, period, your geolocation, redlining, your history, you know, Jim and Jane Crow. We don't talk about that. So then you talk about feminist movement and all that stuff, and how that it really never really benefited black women. No. You know, we actually pushed the agenda for white women more than it did for black women, and it just positioned them in a better position, but it further divided us. The black family, you name it, black culture is the biggest export for the United States outside of war. So when you think about all these things, it does get very stressful when you look at it from a macro perspective. So I do believe maybe starting from block by block, piece by piece, and a collaborative effort will work. But my gripe with it is just like time. It's time, because if we don't move at a certain pace at a certain time, and the world is changing fast, rapidly, technology.
Very quickly. So we have to get with it. I mean, absolutely. It's a problem. No doubt. I mean, I remember, you know, my mom and my dad, when they were married originally in Europe, and when they came here together, it was illegal for a man of color to be married to a white woman. So, you know, I remember she would tell me stories, and it would just boggle my mind. So they came overseas, and they had a Citroen. Like, who drives a Citroen? But they had it shipped here because they love that car. It starts up and then it raises up. That's fine. So they were driving through, I think it was Georgia at the time, and they had to stop and get gas. So my father said to my mother, get in the back seat and lay down, because if this guy sees you with me, he's going to shoot me. So my dad put on his military uniform, thinking maybe this will help. So they stopped at the gas station. Dad, you know, waved at the gas station owner and started putting gas. And my mom said, I feel so bad, but I just had a peek. She just had a peek. And when she just had her peek, that's when the gas station owner was taking a look outside and saw her. So Dad quickly took the gas pump out, got in the car, and just took off and kept driving until they ran out of gas. He was scared. And some really nice person stopped and siphoned some of their gas into the Citroen. And my mom said, you know, I didn't realize, coming from France, I didn't realize this country was like this. We're not like this in France. We're allowed to get married. People of color are respected. What is this? So she was quite shocked about the culture here. So it took her quite some time to adjust. Because even she would go to the supermarket in a white neighborhood with my brother, who was very dark, and people would say, whose baby's that? And she'd be like, it's mine, proudly. That's my baby. How is that your baby? She said she'd get into arguments with people. That's my baby. And people wouldn't believe her. And they would kind of get hostile sometimes, like, why are you bringing him in here? This is back in the 50s. I mean, it's terrible.
And you know what's crazy, and I do love speaking with our elders. I don't mean to call you elder because, like I tell you, look younger than me, but you are my elder, right? And it's crazy to me sometimes when I speak to our elders that you said 1950s. Some people think that's so long ago. Like, some people are so disconnected from the concept of time. Like, oh, that was years ago. You guys are still mad about that? That was 100 years ago. And they don't realize, like, hey, that's somebody's grandmama. That's somebody's mom.
Yes, right. That's right.
You know, so it is kind of scary when you think about it as how much time has changed, or the illusion of progress. Like the illusion of how far we've come, when in reality we haven't really moved the needle at all.
That's true.
Like, even when I look at I think of the concept of slavery, like and I'm not coming at Jeff Bezos and Amazon and all these American oligarchs, low key, 'cause that's what they are. But these tycoons, these millionaires, these billionaires, whatever you want to call them, these trillionaires. If you really were to look at the value that people are making for their companies versus what they're paying people, it borderline still is slavery.
Yeah.
Because it's not as if it's livable wages, and it's not as if it really moves the needle economically for these people in these positions. You work at Amazon, you work in 12-hour shifts, you're making $20 an hour, 25 on a good day, and inflation went up, property tax went up, mortgage went up. Food prices went up, gas went up. Before you know, you're borderline as broke as if you might as well be working for free.
So true.
It is free labor. You're basically still a slave.
Slavery by Another Name. It's a great book. Yeah.
So, it's a tough situation. So, as a mom, right? How do you prepare your kids to not have to to navigate this? Because I know my mom is, and my dad as well, they've tried their best to position me, and I've realized that as I've gotten older, as a younger man, that they've tried their best and they did a great job, and I will never discredit my parents, but I also feel sometimes as if they didn't prepare me for the world that I'm coming into, because the world that I'm in is a completely different world. Like, it's new faces. The games are similar, but it's completely complex now. And with technology, the oppression, the separation to success is it feels closer, but like I said, the illusion of progress is a lot further, because now we're not playing against just a bunch of talented people. We're playing a numbers game now too. So how do you prepare your family, your children, to be able to kind of like oppose some of those things that they have to go through?
Well, I believe that history, like the history that's been given to me through my mom, is really important to carry on from generation to generation. So fortunately, she was able to spend many years with them and share her stories, even back when she was in France, when the Germans occupied France at that time, and what she went through during the German occupation. To teach them a lesson about control and people, and how they can destroy you in a moment. And my kids understand that, and they understand the importance of education. And they also understand the importance of respecting everyone. And sometimes we talk about a lot of things like, Mom, like, I'm a giver, and I think their friends had, like, for a little while they were in high school, their friends had, like, a real influence on them. Like, so I go to the gas station and someone comes over to me and says, "Hey, do you have some money? I'm hungry." So instead of giving them money, I will go in the gas station with them and say, "What do you want to eat? I'll buy you some food." Now my kids will say, "Why do you do that? Those are crack addicts. Why are you giving them money, buying them food?" I've said, I didn't give them money. I bought them food. People are out there and people are hungry. And you have to be able to give a little of yourself. This is the way the world is. Not everyone's bad. Not everyone that asks for money is a crackhead. There are people out there that are really struggling. And you have to understand that. Because you could very easily be in their position.
And they know it's crazy, and I'm glad that you said that, because I look at it now. Staten Island, let's not say Staten Island. The South Shore is having issues right now with narcotics, right? They're having a lot of people who traditionally does not look like what police will call, domestic terrorists, crackheads, thugs, nuisances, the names go on, and it's ironic because now the messaging towards help is different. We hear stories about what the crack epidemic did to a lot of these black communities, but now that it's heroin and oxy and some of these other type of drugs, the response is different. It's like now there's a level of compassion because then their kids are the ones that are going through it. Right. So it's just ironic now that it's like, why is it that when the tint changed, the help and the response changed as well? But you're right though. As people, we still need to have that level of compassion, regardless of the tint or who your background, because people do need help, and the conditions in which we live and operate in also play a huge role in how we are not only perceived, but the type of conditions that we go through. You know, so you're definitely right about that.
Yeah. I never walk past someone that I think might be in need. I am the one who will crouch down on the floor and talk to them and make them feel like someone cares. Because I think 5 or 10 minutes of my time, if I could help someone by giving them kind words and some warm food and saying, hey, you know, someone does care about you, can make a huge difference in someone's life. And even trying to get them off the street, like, can I take you over to Project Hospitality? Can I take you somewhere where you'll be safe, where you could spend the night? Some people have taken me up on my offer, some haven't, but at least I try. I do try. One day, I don't know, this is just who I am. One day I'm coming out of the A&P on Victory Forest, and there's an older woman, a white woman, it's cold out, and she's standing at the bus stop. And I parked my car in the lot where Capital One used to be, and she's got all these bags. I don't see color, you know, because that's
so foreign for us. And I think, and you know, it's crazy, and I don't mean to interject, but it's like, I don't think people in America realize how, I ain't gonna say how weird they are, like how the world views their perspective on things. I don't think Americans realize, like, yo, people don't judge other people by the tint of their skin when you leave the United States. Like, it's rare, and the nations who do, they tend to be like these westernized powers that are also very, very, if you look at their history, have always been racist. The Italys of the world, certain places in Spain, Argentina. You know, if you do your homework and do your research, you can see like the history of how, like, there's nations that legit try to kill off any darker skin. Like, if you go to Argentina, there's like no dark skinned people there. Like, they killed off many of them when the Nazis flew. A lot of the Nazi powers, when they left Germany, they went to Argentina, and they legit like tried to wipe out black people, like dark skinned people. So when you know the history and stuff like that, then you know, like, those places, of course they're like that. But on the larger scale, most people don't operate like that.
Right.
They don't think that's normal. Like, they kind of look at you as if that's kind of weird.
They want to put you in a box right away. Like, are you white? Are you black? Are you Latino? No, you're not Latino. It's, what a way to think. When you first meet someone, it's ridiculous. I mean, and that's how they judge you. Oh, you're a person of color? They might not think so much of you. So that's why when I walk around with a lot of confidence. I will engage in conversation with people, because I feel that I need to do that, so that they don't say, who was that black girl at the party or at the meeting who didn't say anything? Yeah, she probably doesn't belong here anyway. So that's why I'll make the extra effort to talk to people and work the room and get to know people, because networking and having friends is like a strong tool for us, because we can help each other in certain ways.
Being that you're in a lot of the spaces that you're in as a vice president, senior vice president, how do you navigate those spaces? Because you're a black woman, you're a biracial woman at that also, and you're in a position of power where, if you look around, there probably is like no one that looks like you.
Where I work, they do.
Well, Mega Evans, of course, everybody. Mega Evans feel like Harlem, like
right.
in there. But like, you know, there's obviously there's a lot of other spaces that you may have to represent the university, the college, or just just in that position of power. Like, how do you navigate those spaces that may not feel as familiar to you, or is it now familiar to you?
I could tell you when I first started at FIT. I see custodians working. I see public safety contract officers working. And one of the first things I did during my first week or two is I invited the custodian. I said, okay, you're custodian? Come in my office. Have a cup of coffee with me. I'd like to know your name and get to know you. What? No, I can't come in. I have to work. I'm saying, no, you're in my area. It's okay. Come on in. No one has ever asked me to come in in the office and have coffee with them. Nevertheless, a vice president or assistant vice. I said, just come on in. I want to get to know you. And they came in, and we talk. I get to know them, and they kind of feel. I could see the stress level on them, just like.
You create a safe space for them.
Yeah, and I say, if there's ever any issues, come and see me. And then when I come in and I see them now, they're smiling. I say, hey, how are you? How's your daughter? Like I can make a connection with them, and I would do that with the employees, and it brings up morale so much because it kind of makes them feel like she's not my boss. She's someone who cares about me. And you know what? I'm going to do an even better job because of that. So I can make that contact with them. And it made a tremendous difference. It really did.
I like that because I was actually reading something. I actually took a note. Let me see if I find my note. But I think what I said was like morale is necessary for building organizations and working in business and corporate. Like you need morale. Were there any like professional spaces that you were in that kind of helped you, supported you along your journey to the position that you're in?
Kingsborough was, yeah. I actually was on the cabinet at Kingsborough, and the president, who was a Caucasian woman, took me under her wing and said to me, "You're really smart." I was a dean there, and I learned a lot of things under her tutelage. And she was one woman that really took an interest in teaching people of color. She didn't have to do that. She was a president. I think the first female president over at Kingsborough. And she took the time to help people. And she really cared about people of color because they were at that time it was really not diverse. I mean, my first week there, the president walked in. It was a different president at the time. And he threw his coat at me and said, "Here, put this in the coat room." So I was like, okay. And then someone else said to me, "How did you get hired here?" I said, "What?" They said, "Don't you see that people of color don't work here?" I said, "Well, that's changed. I'm here now." I mean, I was shocked, but what am I going to do? Turn around and leave? No, I'm going to make the best experience I can out of this. I'm going to let people know that I'm not afraid to take on responsibility. I'm going to make myself seen in a room. I'm going to make my name known. I'm going to take that opportunity. Even if I don't know anything about this job they want me to take, I'm going to take it. And I'm going to do it good. And it really was a safe space for me to grow. And the president, I have to give her a lot of credit. She really kept pushing me and pushing me. So I'm thankful for that.
That's tough because I feel like for me, I'm one of the people that like I could work in any environment. I have the degrees and indoctrination to back it up as well, the resume and stuff like that. Sure. But it's just I don't know if I hate the politics. I'm just not like I'm one of those people like I'll put my head down and get the job done. And I feel like what I've realized, especially advancing in society as a young man, climbing up the ladder, it's the politics that they don't prepare you for.
Correct.
It's not the work. I feel like a lot of people who are incompetent could do a lot of these jobs in positions of power. It's the politics. It's the do they like you? It's the do you make them uncomfortable? Not knowing they make you probably way more uncomfortable. It's the hard conversations. It's the constant exhaustion of having to deal with people who do not really know nor care or concerned. And how do you tolerate that?
I take it. It's incident by incident. I have to tell you, because you can't plan on what's going to happen. Like, they drop a bag of stuff on your desk and tell you so and so, or you hear someone say, someone's really upset with you because you did whatever, and I'm like, okay, you said so. So I go right down to that office and I say, what's up? What happened? I'm hearing that I'm in trouble for something. What did I do? Let me explain myself. What did I do wrong? Tell me. And we have that hard conversation. I've had difficult conversations with people that I've worked with over at Kingsborough. And at FIT, I've had some very difficult conversations. And you learn from them.
Do you believe like a lot of those difficult conversations that you said come from things you've done? Or do you think it's more like because of who you are in those spaces?
It's who I am in those spaces and the people that I have to deal with. I mean, people will say things to your face, like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. And you have to have composure and you have to show respect, and you never want to show your weakness or go down to their level by saying an inappropriate comment to them. Just like, well, that's what you think. Have a good day.
I can't eat shit like that. Excuse my language. I can't do it. I'm trying. I've tried, and I don't know if it's because of the way I was raised. I don't know if it's the lineage of which I come. I've done it. I've done it before. Like I said, I worked in education in different universities. I worked at Howard. I worked at ASA now. I've taught in the DOE as a full time. I was a teacher. I wasn't even a full time sub. I was a teacher. Okay. They had me working as a teacher, and then I also developed my own programs there for the quote unquote troubled youth of IS 49. So shout out to IS 49. Shout out to Dreyfus, all my boys out there and all that. I think my biggest issue, I even worked at UAU, and I don't even like giving them attention because they are probably the most racist organization on Staten Island by none, and they benefit the most from black people not being in positions of power. But I'm not going to speak any more on them. I think they know it, and everyone knows how I feel about them, even though they did get a new president. But it's just after a certain while, it's just like, how much shit does a person have to eat? I don't like it. That's not my palate. So it's just like, I respect you because I know that, and you eating shit, someone else is going to eat steak. Yeah. Like someone who's coming after you, the faces that's coming after you, they'll eat steak, they'll have their vegan options, they'll have, the champagne they like and stuff like that. But it's just like, how have you been able to take on those responsibilities and take on these sacrifices?
I feel that I have to remain professional, and what they say is what they think, but it's not the truth, and I'm just going to walk away from it. It's just ignorance on their part. That's how I look at it. Because if I turn around and respond in kind, I ruin my whole career, and I'm not going to do that for this person. That's what they want me to do. They're not going to get that from me. I'm going to always maintain it's emotional intelligence. You have to, I've learned over the years how to respond to things in a way that I'm not going to be offensive toward them, but they know that I heard what they said. Yeah.
Do you have any advice on emotional intelligence? Because I think in this new season I'm going to 2023, I think I'm already where I need to be, and I'm not saying that with arrogance. I'm saying that more so And let me take a step back. I don't think I'm where I need to be, but I'm happy where I'm at. I know there's definitely steps I need to take to get to the next level. But I definitely believe like I am who I my purpose is there. I see it. So I think like now it's like you said, the emotional intelligence piece of it. So do you have any advice for me or anyone who's listening that could help propel us to get to those positions through emotional intelligence?
I think you have to have a way of reading people, because we have to remember that communication is 60% body language, right? So I look at people. Are they looking me in the eye? Are they looking me up and down? Are they open to me having conversation with them? If I go over to them and I speak to them and they make a snide comment to me, I'll ask them, what did you mean by that? In a nice way. I'm not going to be lured into a situation where my back's up against the wall. I'll always have an escape route. Like, I have to go speak to my boss over there or someone else to get away from that person if I think they're going to be really hurtful. But you have to really learn to read the room. And once you start beginning to learn those skills, how people act towards you, do they turn their body toward you? Do they come over to you? Do they shake your hand? A lot of people that don't shake your hand, that tells me a lot. So it's a skill that's learned and something that has to be practiced. And it doesn't take, it's not overnight. I mean, we're talking years of meeting different types of people. And then you could look and say, wow, that guy, he's not a nice guy. And I'm not going to make my way over to him. So practice.
Do you think it's your responsibility to try to change people, the rules, the people around you, the room itself? Like, do you think that when you come into the room, like your role is to add to it, change it, or is it one of those things that in your emotional intelligence that you've learned that you just kind of have to show up yourself and then just trust who you are and know that who you are will do what it needs to do for that space?
Absolutely. I have to trust who I am. I can't change other people. There's one thing we all know. We can't change other people. We can change who we are or how we react in different situations, but we can't change other people. That's just not happening. So I can change how I react in certain situations. So if I need to walk away from someone, I will. If I need to correct someone, I will. But I will do it in a very respectful way. It's sort of a back smack in their head that they didn't feel, you know? So
it's like, lately I've been saying something like, before they say kill people with kindness, I'm like, man, I'm gonna kill people with success. It's kind of like, I've noticed that, like, especially on social media, the algorithms are super racist. I don't think people talk about that enough. I study that stuff. So I was doing my PhD studying like social media. I was studying
that's great.
Yeah, I was really studying success, but it was more like digital success, so like tactics that people use to become successful utilizing social media, but more like the dark side of it. So like trolling, online deviance behavior, misinformation, basically like how a certain presidential candidate was able to become president utilizing, you know, the platforms, the algorithms, and in a dark way. So even the algorithms are a language, you know, and in language is also prejudice. In language, it's racism in language, because the person who coded it, you gotta look at where they come from, why they coded certain things. If I say y'all and I'm a black man, it may look like I'm from they might codify that as someone from the hood, but if someone else say y'all, they're a white man, they'll think he's a cowboy. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing that cowboys were originally black. So it's all depending on who is codifying these things. And what I'm realizing more and more is I have to be super strategic. And I also have to utilize the things that make me feel whole. Yes. Because at the end of the day, like, I have one life to live, and I can't spend my life trying to be everything for everyone and nothing for myself. So that's why I ask these kind of questions, because I know for a fact, like, the success, I see it. It burns people. Like, I know a lot of people want to see, you know, it's the same thing like Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people want to see Floyd Mayweather lose. And then when he went 50 and he didn't lose, it's kind of like, damn.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like a lot of us are. Like, I feel like we're all like our own Floyd Mayweather's in our own arenas.
Right.
Like, at what point does he fail? I mean, I've taken mine L. Could I have bowed out? Yeah, but I feel like in me not bowing out, it was more of a win than a loss.
Absolutely.
Because when I left, I took everybody with me. When I went down, the whole thing went down. And the people who are going to benefit and open up the opportunities for others, I feel like is really what's more important. And I know that for me, that opportunity wasn't the greatest opportunity anyway, and it's only positioned me for something better.
Yeah.
So
it's true. You can't take things to heart. People will say things to you that are extremely hurtful, but you can't take it to heart. That's what they want to do. They want to break you down by doing that.
And it's more a reflection of them than you.
Exactly. And that's how you create this reflector in front of you, thinking like, whatever. That's what I think to myself now. Whatever. You know, you can't penetrate me like that. That's not happening. I know who I am. I know what I could do. So no matter what you say, you're not going to bring me down. You're not going to make me get into pieces, you know. And, you know, as a woman, they think, oh, she's going to start to cry. And
they don't know you got a toolbox.
I got a big toolbox.
So you also do consulting as well?
Yes, I'm trying to start up with my consulting business.
So yes. I did I don't research a lot, but I do enough research. So I saw that you have an MPA. And tell us more about what an MPA does. What is an MPA for those who don't know? Because a lot of people don't got no M in anything.
A Master's of Public Administration. So similar to what I'm doing now, public administration can be many things. It could be being in political office. It could be running a non-for-profit agency. So you're involved with the community. I'm involved with a 4-year college, which is predominantly black institution. So there's so many things you can do with an MPA. And it's very portable. Yes.
So what is your goal with your consulting agency? Like, what are you trying to do with it?
I would love to get into companies that have issues with diversity. There are so many companies that have issues with diversity. Huge companies that bring in people, paying them $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and after a month they leave, and they're like, "What happened? We were paying him good money." Well, I don't see anybody that looks like him in this company. You know, where do you recruit people from? Do you recruit other people? How do you recruit? How do you treat them when they get here? How do you make people feel like they're part of the culture of this company? So that's what I would like to do, to help people of color get these good jobs, stay in these good jobs, feel comfortable, and be comfortable going to work. And they're so much more productive instead of being hired just for the color of your skin. And then you can't wait to get out of there. So,
and it messes with your health as well, like mental and spiritual and physical. Like people, you don't realize when you get to a certain age, like most of your life will be spent working.
Yes.
So if you don't even enjoy the work you do, and you don't feel at home, and you don't feel safe, and you don't feel respected, and people are not gonna be productive, and people are not gonna stay there, and they're gonna die.
Yes.
Early, lose years on their life over stress.
It's true. I see it where I am. I mean, I've seen it. People retire. Within 6 months, they're dead.
Yeah, that's not my portion. I don't want that for myself.
No.
Okay. So you say starting up the company. What should we expect? What are we gonna do? Is it gonna be the political route, or what do you want? Like how can we help you? How can we support you?
I think I'm gonna go the political route because it's easier for people to get to know who I am. I want people to know who I am. I mean, I am a person who's very concerned about what's going on, and I want to help. And I want to help the people of our community be respected and to be able to get jobs where they look forward to going to work every day. Because I don't think many people do.
Especially on Staten Island, there's no jobs.
Right. So, and then create that culture where there's inclusion, there's pluralism, there's events that, It's funny. I learned something when I was at Hostos. I was at Hostos for 2 years. And I went to an event during African, they call it Black History Month. And there was a woman there talking about the blankets that the slaves used to make. And I never knew that those blankets were specifically made to communicate with the rest of the people on the plantation. One blanket meant, there's a group of us going out tonight, we're going to try to escape. This is the route we're taking. I didn't know that. I didn't know that women back in the day would use corn rolls because they were planning on leaving, and they would put seeds in their hair so wherever they went, they could start their own plantation and provide themselves with food. I think these things are just amazing. So I want to know more about that, because I didn't know. I mean, there's a house on Staten Island right by the old St. Vincent's, which is North Shore. I don't remember Northwest.
It's like Forest and like Cary area by Beeman over there.
Right. It's that house. I tried to buy that house because it was a part of the Underground Railroad.
No way.
Yes. Yes.
Do you know? So I'm assuming someone bought it already.
Somebody bought it already.
They probably weren't black.
No.
Oh.
And it runs, from what I understand, all the way to Victory.
Like underneath, downstairs, like in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta go.
If they let us in.
They gonna let us in, man. Listen, we can make a phone call. We can get in.
Yeah. So there is, and that's not publicized. I mean, there's so many things on Staten Island that we just don't know about.
Like if you obviously we're hearing about Sandy Ground now, and shout out to Shawnee Dixon, who's 8th generation descendant of Captain Dixon, who owned Sandy Ground, and largest black civilization in New York, in the nation, by a black person. But you got that, but there's so much history. Even like I think on the South Shore, because a lot of people don't know the South Shore was really predominantly black for a long time. Like a very long time. That's where a lot of people, settled. Formerly enslaved people established themselves there, worked, etc., etc. So there's a lot of black history on the South Shore. It's just unfortunate if they haven't destroyed it all and put up all these Walmarts and ShopRites and Stop and Shops and LA Fitnesses and stuff. But there was a lot of black history on the South Shore, and I think that it was kind of also strategic that we don't know about it.
Absolutely. So many things that we don't know. Like, did you ever drive down the Bell Parkway? And I would always say, why are these crossings so low? Like back in the day when it was built, there were no huge trucks. And trucks aren't allowed on the Bell Parkway anyway. And I did some digging, only to find out that Robert Moses wanted it that way, so that people of color couldn't get on a bus and drive to the beaches. Buses can't fit underneath that. So that was his way of keeping
black people out.
And the same thing with the bridge was built, and they started to build a tunnel under the bridge also. It's maybe a quarter of the way built, but it was stopped because they didn't want us to have too much access to Staten Island.
Oh, that's why I feel like they don't want any subways to be built going into Manhattan, Brooklyn anyway, because they know, and that's why the tolls are getting more expensive, because they know it's going to bring people who are not Caucasian folks. Right. Because they left it. And what I've also noticed is like people love to like kind of codify things through language. So they'll be like, we want to keep crime out. They'll say like, what are some other things? Like even when because I study a lot of rhetoric talk, especially during politics and like campaigns. So they'll say super predators. They usually talk about Mexicans. They'll say what else? Thugs. Obviously black. Law and order, racism. And when they say law and order, basically white racism, keeping black people in a position of distress. What was something else that I saw that during especially during like George Floyd, rioters and looters They were speaking more about black people. That's why if you notice during the protest, they never called it a protest. Like when white people were talking about protest, they never called it protest.
Right.
They all called it, oh, well, it's not, we don't care about, we just want to make sure the rioters and the looters. And we're looking at them like.
The language, you're right.
So when you notice those things and you know that and you see that and you see these patterns, it makes you really look left and right about a lot of things because people don't understand how important and how powerful language is. Like they say like more wars are fought without guns but with words. You know, like civilizations were built by words, not by guns and war. And you know, so when you know these type of things, you really start to really like look at things differently. But yeah. I don't want to take up all your time because you are a busy woman.
I'm enjoying that conversation.
I am too. Yeah. Is there anything? So what is 2023 going to look like for you? You know, we're getting into the holidays. What is 2023? What are some of the goals you have set for yourself?
I am going to continue to look into running for office, and I'm going to continue to try and help as many people as I can. And I see no color. People of color, who are Caucasian also sometimes get into situations, but like that woman like the elderly. I am so infuriated by how the elderly are treated in this country. You saw what happened during COVID. They were just sent back to the homes to their deaths. Just last week, an 80-year-old man was punched in the face by his assistant in one of these homes. I mean, what is going on? In other countries, people respect their elders. This in African American culture, the elders carry the history of the family down from generation to generation. Here, we don't care. Most people don't care about them. They just want to stick them in an old age home somewhere and just leave them alone. Someone has to regulate these places. They're not regulated right. They're not inspected. It infuriates me.
What I would say is this, as a whole, I just don't believe people care about people anymore.
Yeah.
Old, young, black, white, Chinese, Dominican, no matter what, people just don't care. There's that level. Well, let's call it what it is. There's no such thing as ethics in this nation. This nation is not built on ethics. So when you say that and you look left and right and you have these conversations, you realize like, well, how can you expect this nation to care about elders when they don't care? Like it's like this: you can't say you care about your mom but not care about somebody else. You can't say you love God and hate people. You can't say you want to see the world be a better place but you're tormenting other people because so when you know that the contradiction, the hypocrisy and all of it is kind of like, are you really surprised?
No, but I'd like to bring that to the forefront. Maybe it'll, I might fall on my face, but I have to try.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Getting to know more people because together we're stronger. And getting out there more. Showing my face and speaking to people like you, like. I think people of different generations with the knowledge that we have, and we get together and we talk. We come up with great ideas, even if it's little things that we could do to help people and make some progress in this country.
Progress, not perfection.
Right.
Because eventually we'll get there.
I believe
God willing.
So.
If they don't move the goalposts again, which they will.
Right.
Hopefully, we might have to just staple it down there or something. Put it in some concrete, then they'll just dig around the concrete. Then we got to staple. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All good minds with good intention will find a way.
I love that. And I think that's a great place to end. If people want to connect with you, find you, ask you questions, maybe consult with you, how can they go about doing so?
They can. I pick up the phone.
You give out your phone number to people? You don't even know who might be listening.
All right. Email me.
There you go.
My email is fraleycorrado@gmail.com. That's FRALEYCORRADO@gmail.com. All one word. And send me a message. I'd be more than happy to respond.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much for your time, your energy. Like I said, y'all tuning in Talk Ain't Cheap, hosted by Cletus Real Talk, powered by the Cletus Group and the Talk Ain't Cheap Network. And like I say, it's not that deep. It's a vibe.